how does one start a podcast? I don't fucking know. I didn't bring any brain cells
to the table.
To this table.
Hi, hello. Welcome to the podcast. A spoonless witch and
a sad bitch.
Haha. My name is Ashley Michelle, and this is my lovely cousin,
Cherry Garcia.
Who we love and adore. And
do we?
We do.
Question mark?
Affectionately.
Oh, wow.
So much.
Okay.
But we've been thinking about doing this podcast for a hot minute, right?
A hot minute. We talk a lot.
We do. We do talk a lot.
And laugh a lot, as you'll probably notice throughout.
Yes, I'm so sorry. Like, I'm
in
not
advance,
really...
honestly. We make apologies, but they're only half-hearted.
Yes. They're nothing behind them, actually.
Yeah, actually.
Yeah.
That's all the way across the house.
We can still hear it.
So loud. Anyways.
So, we've been thinking about doing this podcast for a really long time, and the premise of it is so that way we can do the least amount of work while having the most amount of fun, talking about the things that we really love, which is anything spooky, paranormal, fucking true crimey, whatever.
The things that will terrify you.
Yes.
And rob me of sleep at night.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
In fact. So, Cherry, affectionately, did not go to public school. In fact, is a homeschooled, I was going to say ex-Christian, but I don't know if that's like...
I mean, agnostic is kind of what I've settled on.
Perfect.
Just because can't prove, can't disprove. So we're just chilling.
Just chilling.
But I will say, recovering Christian.
See, I was looking for that.
Wholeheartedly, yes. That's
I was
it.
like, there was a term that you used
It
earlier.
was there.
Yeah. So, the other day, we were already going to start the podcast, but the other day we were talking about Samhain, and we were talking about Halloween, and Cherry does not know any real origins or anything like that, which I think when people start to get into the spooky ooky stuff, they like start, that's like one of the first little fun factoid things that they like go into. So we are going to use that as our jumping point and as our base off into this podcast. And so if you already know all about Samhain, get the fuck out or listen and enjoy.
Yeah.
As I
have fun with us.
Screw everything up.
I mean, elegantly.
Thank you.
Gracefully, even.
Oh, fantastic.
Bless.
So, disclaimer, so that way no one comes at me and yells at me. This is a recap to the best of my knowledge.
Fuck off, haters.
Yes, exactly. Okay. This is not a comprehensive list or all-encompassing. This is educational, but it's also for entertainment, so,
And to add to the spooky vibe, you will hear cats fucking shit up in the background.
Oh
so,
please.
We love them almost as much as we want to, yeet fluffy pillows at them.
What are they doing?
She's just exploring the inside of that cardboard box over there. And really, that's my fault, because I did dangle that which they love most. Empty boxes.
That's so true.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's all your fault.
Yeah.
Perfect.
I'll take that.
Love that.
Mm-hmm.
So, take this episode with a grain of salt. And, go do your own research if you hear something or see something that you don't like. Okay, so.
Hit me with it.
Halloween's origins stem from Samhain. Right? It's not spelled like that. It's spelled Samhain. It's like Samhian.
Wow. That is definitely not what was in Cherry's brain.
I know.
I was like, SOW question mark Samhain. Okay, I'm gonna stop outing myself.
Yeah,
Please continue.
It's totally fine. Everyone fucks it up. Especially like new pagans and stuff fuck it up all the time. So that's why I wanted to
I'm gonna move the boxes.
So, starting with the origins, let's first, something that I want to kind of clarify, because you'll hear these words interchangeably a lot. Okay. So, there's Gaelic, and then there's Celtic. Do you know the difference between those two things?
I know those two things exist. I could not tell you the differences.
Okay. So, Celtic is like a language family, And then Gaelic is a language group within the Celtic family. Okay? So the Celtic language family includes Irish, Scottish, Scottish Gaelic, Welsh, Breton, and Cornish. Okay? And then Gaelic itself, the language group, includes Irish, Scottish Gaelic, and Manx. So, like, Isle of Man. Oh. Yes. And for those of you who don't know, the Isle of Man is a small little, like, island in between Ireland, Scotland, and Britain.
That is hilarious, because every time I've ever heard that, all I've pictured was just, like, a human-shaped island. It's, Isle of Man.
You know. Isle of Man. So, to clarify.
Yes.
And, like, people can correct me on this or whatever, but Celts and, like, Irish are not the same. But Irish do speak a Celtic language. Like, Irish people who speak Irish or Irish Gaelic, they're speaking a Celtic language. Okay? So, like, a Romance language. And Spanish is, like, a Romance language.
Right.
Gotcha. Okay. Perfect. Now, wow. I put so much stuff that you probably don't need to know. But,
You can info dump. I don't mind.
Okay. Love that. So, Celtic languages, as far as Celtic languages go, there's, like, it's usually split up into the two. I think there's actually, like, 3 splits, but the 2 main ones are Gaelic and Brittonic. And they both come from the Proto-Celtic, sorry. They both come from that language, but the difference is in the Q sound, or at least one of the main differentiating differences is in the Q sound. Brittonics say Q with a P, and then Gaelic says Q with a C. So when you're, like, speaking it, so.
You mean, like, tomorrow when I go to work.
Exactly, and you're going to start speaking Gaelic.
Like speaking in tongues.
Your mother would freak out.
She would be like, "Yes, my child, you have arrived." And I'll be like, "Actually, it was Gaelic, Mom."
I'm okay.
Thank you for your information.
You're so welcome.
Bless.
So now our earliest mentions of, like, Samhain. Wow. I'm so sorry.
That was for my benefit. Thank you.
Please take that out. I've literally never called it that in my life. Oh my god. Okay.
Keeping it in.
What a bitch.
Editor power.
Editor power. You're right. Whatever. So we first start seeing things as early as the 6th century AD and counting. So meaning, like, prior to 6th century AD, we like still have some sort of, like, understanding, but most of everything was, like, oral tradition. So, like, we didn't have a lot of, like, written down stuff. Ireland invasions that you might want to, or invasions that happened to Ireland. So that way you can kind of get a gist of time frames. The Vikings, from Norway and Denmark, they invaded in the 19th and the 10th century. Anglo-Normans invaded the 12th and the 13th century. And the second English invasion was in the 16th century.
They invaded as recently as the 19th century?
No, 16th century. 16th.
I thought you said one of them was the 19th century.
No, I literally said the 13th and the 12th. And then the 9th and the 10th.
I must have merged the two in my brain. I tell you, my brain is a wily bitch.
A wily hoe. A wily hoe. Okay, so the language that we can document is anywhere between the 4th and the 6th century, like, written down language, CE, and it was in stone. So we have, like, little stone things that we see Gaelic, Celtic languages in.
Nice.
As far as social organization, they were in tribes or clans, and they had chieftains or warriors as their, like, leaders. And the social class went warrior class, skilled craftsmen, and farmers. It's really important, I think, for you to know that they are in agrarian society. So, like, they're all agriculture based, which kind of, like, goes into why Samhain even exists. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So in terms of food, right? And I think this is also really important because of the culture. Like, the food was like obviously varying and abundant, but there was a lot of domesticated like meats, like pigs, sheep, you know, cows, things like that. And that just like further enhances like the agrarianism of it. Okay, cool. Love that we all know that now. I did not realize we were going to go that I was going to like go so fast with the information that I had. I was like, wow, this whole page is so filled up. So things to note before we really like get into Samhain, is that the Celtic people believed, or the way that they saw time was from sunset to sunset. So a lot of the festivals start at sunset. Samhain starts at sunset.
Oh.
And goes on to the next sunset.
Into the night?
Into the entire night.
Oh, okay.
And the year's beginning, which is what we started talking about, right? The year's beginning was thought to be in winter. Because just like we're beginning on sunset, we're starting kind of at where we think the end, right, is. Because we like look at winter and we're like, oh, that's the end of the year.
Right. I think when we were talking about it initially, we were talking about like the concept of death and how it starts with death and then it grows into life.
Exactly. So their years were divided by dark months and light months. And then if you look at kind of like the wheel of the year as we know it for modern pagans now, you can kind of see that, and I will, I got this cute little infograph for you. So if you look, you can kind of see the trajectory of like light months to dark months, and then like it circles back around, right? Okay, so like the dark months, right, we start with Samhain, which is October 31st into November 1st. And then the light months start with Beltane, which is around May 1st. It depends kind of like on like moon shit and moon shit.
Not even some lunar shit over here. She said moon
shit. But so like that all kind of translates into like today's wheel of the year and how like pagans kind of it's like very loosely based off of the Irish medieval calendar. And so there are 4 Gaelic festivals. There is Samhain, Imbolc, Beltane, and Lunasa.
Lunasa is such a cool name.
It is.
I've never heard it before.
I know. Some people also call it Candlemas, I think.
Never heard of that.
Yeah.
Also not as cool.
Yeah, it's not as cool. But those are considered the Celtic cross festivals, and so it's like kind of like because they make the cross.
No, why does that imagery sound familiar?
Why does that imagery sound familiar? And then there's 4 midpoints or quarter days in between those. So Yule, Astara, Litha, Mabon, or Mabon, which is the Mabon mead that I was talking about, which are based on solstices and equinoxes. And just
this is so much science.
I know. It really
and I
fucking
just
is.
need to remind you and tell the I'm not a science bitch. Like, there will be repeat content.
No, that's totally
Please
fine.
give me a passing grade at least.
Yes, you get a passing grade.
C's
just
get
for
degrees,
being...
okay?
Exactly.
Plus. Okay,
You're
cool.
here, and that's all that matters.
Lovely.
So just to recap for everyone else, solstices are like the longest day and the longest night. So we have 2 solstices in the year, and we have 2 equinoxes in the year. Equinoxes are equal days and nights that are equal. So that's how you can kind of, I guess, remember that. Yeah. And those were like really important, right? Because like solstices, you have the longest day that's kind of celebrated because especially if you're an agrarian kind of culture,
you get the most sunlight.
You get the most sunlight.
Your plants benefit the most.
Your
you
plants
feel the
benefit
most warmth.
the most. You're working the most. Like that is the longest day that you're probably working. You know, you're doing
making
everything.
That bag.
Exactly. Or just your food for yourself.
Honestly.
Which is also important.
Yes, before capitalism.
Yes. Exactly. And then the longest night is kind of just like one of those things, right? Like the longest night is kind of scary, right? Like it's very dark. for a long time.
I'm a night owl.
You also have electricity.
I feel like I would just sleep in the grass all day.
Not
until I die.
If you heard about some of the monsters that you thought were outside.
Honestly, though, need I remind you, sad bitch.
Sad bitch. True.
Depresso espresso is my drink of choice.
Is eating.
I would eat. Happily, probably. I'm sorry. I am seeing a therapist. It's fine.
Everything is okay.
We are fine.
Okay. Now we're getting into the nitty gritty of Samhain. The Halloween of it all.
Hello, okay. Halloween.
So, there seems to be like a lot of like different discourse around the etymology of Samhain. Okay. We won't get into the entire thing.
God, please. It would feel like I'm at work. But also I will listen and enjoy.
I love etymology for other people who don't know me. If you do know me, shut up. I love just hearing the way that like words either came about or like how they are formed and like why, and it's just lovely.
So what are your thoughts on yeet? The way you were just like, I will murder you.
We'll come back to that because I actually could write a dissertation on it.
I bet you could, bitch. I bet you could.
But
anyways,
unfortunately, I have no spoons because I'm
honestly, and I don't want to hear it. I just want to hear about Halloween.
Perfect, exactly. So, the importance of how it's written is one of the reasons why I told you in the first place, right? So, it's written Samhain, right?
Right.
Sam, S-A-M, meaning summer.
Oh.
Sao means summer. And then the hain, right, is end.
I'm just so blown by the fact that there's an M there and we're not doing anything with this information.
We're not touching the M. It's fine. At all.
It's good.
So, summer's end is roughly for pretty much all of the Gaelic languages. So, Ireland, Samhain, Scotland usually says it. Oh, man. Savin with a V.
Okay.
And then Isle of Man says Hoptuna.
That's different.
Yeah. Or old, I think it sounds almost like honey. I can't really remember. Honey? I want to say Arabic or Spanish so bad, and it's just not.
And I feel like Gaelic is in a class of its own.
It is. It really is.
Completely. It's a beautiful language. It looks amazing.
I know.
I just wish
Fuck
I
it up,
knew.
it's so sexy.
I know,
like,
right?
Wow. Okay. But what's interesting, and I just find this interesting in general, is Britannic Gaelic, Wales, Cornwall, and Brittany all see Samhain as winter's beginning rather than summer's end.
Interesting. They are
in their translations.
Would that be a glass half full?
Well, not entirely, because I believe one of the reasons why they see it as winter's beginning, there was some sort of like, and this wasn't like corroborated through like multiple sources, but this was just like a couple of the sources that I did find. Like this mythology of the sun like suffering, the sun was being locked away to, and that's why, we don't have the long days anymore. We have the long nights.
No.
Yeah, exactly.
Not the sun.
Not the sun. But she says with the utmost fucking
sorry.
Jesus.
I didn't mean that to sound as sarcastic as it did. My bad.
No, it's totally fine. But it's funny because when we think about like, at least when I think about British humor, right? I'm thinking about a little bit more dry, kind of darker, kind of like whatever. And then when I think about like Celtic and Gaelic, I'm thinking about very cheery, very like, whatever. And so it's just like they have this view of the suffering of everything, of the sun. It was interesting. It was just interesting.
I see.
Okay. So now that you have all of that context.
I love context.
Thank you. Let's talk about what we start seeing during the 19th century, because I just really want to put this into perspective for you.
Things get fucked up in the 19th century.
The 9th century.
See, look. I feel like you said 19th last time now. You know what? Editor Cherry, like...
Find out.
You have the receipts, literally. It is in your hands.
Please tell me I'm right.
If not, someone's getting a voice note.
I'll have you know, you did say the 19th century. And so when I was like, wait, they rated as like recently as the 19th century, you gaslit me. It's thinking you said the 9th century. I'm leaving that shit in.
Wow. Okay, 9th century. The Mayan decline. Fucking crazy, right?
Really?
Yes.
The 9th century
was happening in the 9th century. Viking invasions, which we already knew about. Beowulf was being written or like told or talked about.
I was supposed to read Beowulf.
Oh my god, it's long. like it's not like super long.
I think that's what kept me from reading it.
It just like comparatively, we've read longer works, right? But
listen, I've had to read parts of Paradise Lost and kill me.
There's nothing as dry.
Please, just he was British, which fits. Dry humor, but that humor was not.
It took a lot.
It was soul murdering.
There was one, Voltaire. Oh, that was actually really kind of good. Anyway, the Middle Ages are happening. Okay. And which ties into Samhain, the Western Church endorsed All Saints Day, which was November 1st. And just
question,
note,
what is All Saints Day?
So All Saints Day is a Catholic holiday that celebrates all of the saints.
Okay, lovely. I'm glad it was self-explanatory.
Yes. No. But originally it was for Mary, like the Virgin Mother.
Who could forget? But two things happened. They changed the date to coincide with, and it's believed it was changed to coincide with this already like kind of holiday, so that way, you know how it taking over shit and whatever. Changing
and
days for convenience.
And oppression.
Mostly oppression, and convenience. It's sprinkled in there somewhere.
And so they also added the inclusion of all the saints rather than just Mary. So, that is important context just to kind of show like.
So, wait, spookiest day is October 31st. And then the Catholic churches were like, wait, hold on. Day after All Saints Day, let's Christian it up in this bitch.
Yes.
Okay.
Very specifically, right? Because
it's like an antidote.
Yeah, well, not even just that, but the Celts were, I don't want to say celebrating death, right? But in the same way that Dia de los Muertos is like a celebration.
Right.
Samhain is a celebration, right? And so they were trying to, to many people's mind, appropriate that and so they could try to shift the narrative on the saints and recapture and be like, oh yes, come convert here. We also have celebrations during this time. It's kind of like when they do the trunk or treating at church. They're like, look, we can be fun too.
Which just never made sense.
Right. And what's so funny, right, is the trunk or treating, I think that the reason why they do that, modern day, right, is just because they're giving everyone something to do on that night when everyone else is doing things. And they want the kids to be like, oh, well, it's okay. We're fun too. The
Christian version. If you care to know what I was always told.
That is the Christian version.
They're modern day, certainly. But it's also Christians, when you're in the fold, it's very when you're in the fold, it's very much not only just we're fun too, but it's we would rather them be at our church instead of out there where the evil will get them.
Yes. Well, that's so what I was saying weird. For the beginning, right?
I know, but it's just them... I was just adding the fear
context. Oh yeah, the fear
that
context,
they put into the church. Very specifically, they make it sound or they make you feel like you're saving people by bringing them
trunk or treating.
Trunk or treating.
Or any kind of like thing on that day.
Yes. Which again, appropriation. Or oppression.
Yeah, literally.
Literally. Anyways.
For extra context, I was never really Christian. So like sometimes Sheree explains Christian things to me and I'm like, oh wow, people are crazy.
Yeah.
But I did grow up Muslim, and my mom was very like happy-go-lucky with religion. She was very much like, oh, you go explore and whatever. I had wanted to go to the Islamic faith like when I was super young, when she was doing it, because I wanted to do like, you know, codependent, it's fine. But it was a me choice, right? And like my mom let that happen. Like she was very much like oh, what you want to do, you do. And then to counter that, my family
went hard.
Yeah, they went hard on this poor baby.
poor baby.
Poor baby Ashley. They really like, you know, I went to vacation Bible school, and that's the extent really, is vacation Bible school and summer church classes or like church goings. That's what I know. Well, to be fair, that's what I know of like modern day Christianity. If you ask
a small part of the world too.
Yes.
Because it's very different flavors in other spaces as well.
Yeah. My minor is, for my bachelor's, was in religious studies. So I know a lot more about antiquity than I do about modern Christianity.
And I also just like to add context too, just because like there's like there's antiquity, there's modern Christian, and then there's whatever the fuck I grew up in.
That's
which
super
is
fair.
Like, as my sister likes to describe it, is very eclectic.
Oh.
Eclectic and cold. I say cold. Sister says eclectic to be kind. But yeah, so sorry for that.
No, it's important context, I think, for everyone to know, especially if we're talking
Halloween.
Yeah.
And like, for me at least, part of this is unlearning some bullshit I've learned growing up. And because they really do make it seem like you're out there saving the world by bringing people trunk or treating. And it's very like, as I'm saying it out loud, I'm like, wow, that is some unhinged shit, you know? The audacity.
Like, y'all really think something of yourselves.
At least they're getting candy out of it, I
suppose. At least they're getting candy. So they're getting cavities.
They could do.
Is what they're getting.
You know. Merca. Sorry. Canceled. Out the gate. My bad.
Listen, if you stick with us for this one, then you can stick with us through anything.
Honestly, because we don't have anything figured out, and that just means we're more unhinged.
I love it. So when we're thinking about themes with Samhain and stuff like that, there's already like a lot of death stuff happening, right? Because it's, you know, you have the nights are starting to get longer. Mm-hmm. You have the actual like physicality of it that's surrounding you.
Darkness has a bad rap.
Darkness
also,
does.
like, darkness can be dark. To not mince words.
Yes. And so, like, obviously those seasonal changes are, like, you know, all around you. They're kind of, like, permeating everything. Mm-hmm. We're also, like, seeing, obviously, like, crops die and stuff.
R.I.P. babies.
R.I.P. babies. But at this point in the year, you've had all of your harvest festivals. So you've harvested pretty much as much as you can,
right.
Or the majority of what you're going to be harvesting, the bulk of it has already been done, or should have already been done. Mm-hmm. Excuse me.
Just wait till one of those T-Rex ones goes.
Please.
For science, I have to leave it in the podcast.
To be mindful. Demure. Very cutesy. I'm sorry.
A queen.
Okay. Another thing, right, that we get to see is during this time, right, is the cattle or like other livestock are brought down from like higher pastures or from the summer pastures. This is an actual like migration like technique or like agricultural technique called transhumance. Transhumance. Yes. Thank you.
I just guessed.
Yes.
Between the two of us, we got it.
Exactly.
They'll correct us if we're wrong. It's going to happen.
And it's so funny because, like, if you have ever owned chickens or anything similar, you know that, like, when they're in a coop in one spot, that the grass goes and it's gone. So, like, the theory or the reasoning for moving them about is because those pastures, they're all eaten up now. So now you have to shift them to the other pastures so that way they have that, like, fresh new
because the grass is
grazing.
greener.
Yes,
on the other side.
literally on the other side.
It's actually there.
It is actually there. Okay,
cool.
So let's think about. Tell me things that you think about when you think about Halloween.
Pumpkins, jack-o'-lanterns. I think the ghosts and the ghouls of it all. I know that, like, jack-o'-lanterns have a purpose. I say I know in giant quotation marks.
Totally
that they're supposed to ward off evil spirits. Never understood, like, what the nature of these spirits are. Are they there to reap your soul? Are they there just to kill you? Are they there to fuck it up and, you know,
fuck around and
take a
find out.
shot with you? Like, we don't know. I don't know. So, yeah. And then, like, the more modern stuff, I know people like to dress up.
Right.
But I think I'm pulling it out of the archives.
Right.
I think that, like, wasn't getting dressed up supposed to be also an attempt to trick the spirits?
Yes.
So I know that. I feel like there was something about black cats in there, but if it's dark, I don't want to know about it.
I think that's a general thing.
Okay.
There's, like, a couple of superstitions when it comes to black cats. Number one, if a black cat crosses your path, it's bad luck, right?
Best luck.
Best luck.
Let's correct that.
Let's first.
Best.
Justice
I'm dropping
for
the gavel.
black cats.
Justice for black cats.
Yeah. No. So, and that has a whole, like, history behind it too. That has to do with, like, witches and, like,
and familiars,
yes. And just, like, loads of stuff, which we can always get into in another
That'll
time.
be another episode.
Okay, so you mentioned very specifically, like, costumes and dressing up. So we'll start there. Okay. Right? So,
I imagine they weren't dressing up like Stewie.
No. Although that would scare the fuck out of me.
Just a giant.
As a spirit, okay?
I would be like, wow, let me just not fuck with you. Okay, bye.
So we have, like, varying different customs from varying times, but a lot of the dressing up seems to come from around the 16th century. At least that's where I was getting a lot of, like, my research from, was from the 16th century. And there's two specific activities that brings about.
Like the dressing up specifically?
Yes.
Okay.
Mumming and guising.
Mumming makes me think of, like, mummies.
I know. But mumming is a bunch of, like, amateur, like, folk actors, and they'll, like, or performers, I should say, and they would, like, sing and regale people. And
so they're the drama club.
Yes, and they're kind of like Christmas caroling, but for Samhain. And they just, like, come around and now this could go farther back. Like, to be honest, this sounds like something that would go further back.
Maybe Christmas caroling has something like the actual connection.
Well,
how weird.
Yule.
Yeah.
So
Yuletide. I know something about that.
Perfect.
Very little.
That's okay. We can do another one.
Yay.
But guising in the 16th century specifically is where we kind of see it really heavily, 16th and 19th century. So it, like, continued on pretty early into,
Speaking
like, the 20s.
etymology, is that, like, close to disguising?
I
you said
don't
guising?
think so. I don't think so.
Okay.
Because one's an English word and then one is, I don't even know what the fuck guising is.
I don't even know.
You know.
Okay, cool.
But so usually it really heavily centered around young men. But I think probably was not specific to young men. They would dress up, right? And they would, you know, that's where we get the, like, trick or treat, give me something good to eat, like, if you don't, blah, 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 whatever.
What's the rest of it? I've only ever heard that first part.
If you don't, I won't tell. And then, like, different places have different...
Oh, okay.
I don't remember what
That's cool. I was
is.
just asking.
Yeah.
Because Mom made us dress up as Jesus and angels. The only time I I shit you not. Okay, so listen, real quick dive into Cherry's background here. The only time I have 2 siblings, brother, sister. The only time we were ever allowed to participate was the few years I was enrolled in elementary school.
Oh my God.
My brother was dressed as Jesus because obviously, who else could the one and only son be represented?
Please.
You know? So he was dressed as Jesus, obviously. And my sister and I were lovely little angels. Mom went out of her way to make the wings. We were quite adorable, I will say. We were the only godly creatures that showed up to school that day. But one could say we were, in fact, blessed.
Let's also clarify. This was at the Christian school, right?
No.
Oh.
She whole ass made us go to public school.
Oh, God.
This was when we were in South Florida.
Oh, my God. So this was, like, a long, long time ago.
Yes. If I had to guess my age, maybe 5 or 6.
Yeah. Let me clarify. The majority of Cherry's school career has been homeschooled.
Majority.
So there was some times where there wasn't homeschooling, but we don't talk about those dark times.
We don't talk about any of it. No, we do talk. We do talk.
We do talk a lot, actually.
Actually, too much, one might say.
That's why we have a podcast now.
That's why we have B-roll.
Please.
Sorry.
Okay, so this led into modern day trick-or-treating, right? And like the trick or treat, yes.
You said guising. Can you tell me again what that was? Because I got distracted.
Guising was the dressing up and doing the trick-or-treating,
Gotcha.
right?
Okay.
So what kids would normally do was they would be like trick or treat, right? Mm-hmm. And you would either give them the candy or the sweets or the treats of whatever.
Or you get TP'd.
Or you get TP'd, or you get egged, or you get whatever. Mm-hmm. And like there was...
Which, how rude.
I know. It ranged from like super mischievous, just little teehees, to a little bit more like, And
more
that,
like, fuck you, bro.
Yeah.
And where's my candy at, though?
Where's the
Where
Snickers?
it at, though?
But that harkens back to like an even further older like practice of leaving out sweets and stuff like that to appease like spirits, like actual spirits and like the gods and things like that. I don't remember what it's called. There's a word that I'm thinking of, but like if you look at any like religion, you see a lot of like giving sacrifices, right? And that's all that it is, right? Is it's just sacrifices to these gods to appease them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah, because even Christianity has its own sacrifices and stuff like that. Like, not that they like to talk about that.
Well, you know, it's the things we don't talk about that smothers us to death. But you know,
literally,
another episode.
Something that was like interesting in my like research. There was also something called souling in Europe, which was where the lower class would go into the upper class areas, and they would do these like caroling and like the asking for treats, and then they would get things like from the rich people.
Wow.
Which
wow. Rich folk though.
And speaking of treats, this is going to be an ADHD fucking spiral, okay?
Okay.
So
I love those.
We're talking about the treats, right? Where do treats come from aside from like giving sacrifices or whatever to these gods? Also, like Dia de los Muertos, the Celts would leave sometimes like a plate or like soul bread or whatever, like these things because they believed that like their dead were coming to visit them. Yeah, because the veil again is at its thinnest.
Right.
The veil meaning the border between
spiritual
life and death. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's another place where we think that the treats, the trick-or-treating part comes in, right? Like it all kind of ties together and interlaps. Okay. So, wow, that was so much that I threw at you. Okay. And so like, yeah, so the costumes were in an effort to either A, disguise themselves and trick the like spirits, or B, to scare them away.
Okay.
Okay, and so you talked about jack-o'-lanterns, right? Mm-hmm. So the original practice of jack-o'-lanterns was specifically with turnips, beets, and other root vegetables.
Oh. Those seem rather small to, like, carve out.
Yes, but there were several reasons why they had them, right? Mm-hmm. So, number one, they would carve faces into them, or they would hollow them out, and they would stick coals in them from the large bonfires that they would have, which we'll get into. And that's how they would transport the coals or the fire from the big bonfire to their individual homes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because metal was expensive. They didn't, like, always, you know, they reserved that for things like weapons and, like, tools, all that kind of things. And so they would either stick candles in them, they would stick the coals in them, they would stick whatever they're, you know, gonna do. And those, like, jack-o'-lanterns those original ones were also made to kind of the reason they carved the faces into them was to, like, scare away the spirits and stuff like that too.
They can't cross the threshold, not with our Gordo over here. Guarding.
Help me.
Gording, if you will.
I'm done with you.
I'm done with me.
Oh yeah.
That was stupid.
I loved it though.
Bless.
Okay, so in the 19th century, when there was, like, an influx of Irish immigrants coming into America, they, according to my research, they found pumpkins, and pumpkins suited the tradition better because they're bigger, like you said, and fuller and whatever, and so that's why we have pumpkins for jack-o'-lanterns. Now, the jack-o'-lantern itself was based off of, or there's some sort of myth or lore about Stingy Jack, and that's where we get, like, the jack-o'-lantern story from and stuff like that. He kind of... Go ahead.
I was going to ask, he doesn't have anything to do with, like, the Headless Horseman myth or whatever, right? Does that have a tie-in to Halloween, or is that completely separate?
I want to say both. I don't remember.
Okay.
I think that maybe there is, because I'm trying real hard to remember my fucking mythology here. You're testing my limits.
Listen, I just am made of questions.
I love it. I love it. We'll put a pin
Wonderful.
in it.
Okay, that's fine.
So Stingy Jack was thought to... he made a deal with the devil. And it kind of reminds me of that song, The Devil Went Down to Georgia.
Yeah.
And
it's a good one.
Yeah. And so he...
Sorry.
I can't. So in the story, he does whatever he does to try to pull the wool over the devil's eyes and gets caught. He fucks around, he finds out, and he's, like, doomed to wander the earth with just this, like, turnip fucking... I don't know.
So he tries to pull one over on Satan.
And Satan's like, LOL,
and he
fuck
dooms
you.
him to hold a gourd.
Yeah.
For the rest of his life. He's like, joke's on you, buddy.
Actually.
Take this pumpkin.
And something else that I also found really interesting was will-o'-wisps. You know, those little, like...
I think I
orb,
know.
They're kind of like orb-like creatures that are often thought of as spirits.
All I'm picturing are, like, the little blossoms from E.1 right now, from Avatar the movie.
Oh, okay. Well, very much similar in terms of, like, they're very, like, fluorescent and, like, bright, lighty, whatever.
They're literally describing They're literally describing E.1 to me right now.
Well, in Ireland and Scotland and, like, other areas, there were what were called will-o'-wisps, and they're just, like, these floating orbs that you would see in, like, you've seen Brave?
Yes.
You know the little
yes.
will-o'-wisps?
Okay, yes. Why didn't we start with that? We're
Sorry.
talking about
Sorry. That was my bad.
It's okay. We're allowed to have moments.
My bad, bro.
We got there. That's what matters.
We got there. So what was really interesting about that, right, is, like, the fairy lights and, like, the will-o'-wisps and whatever.
Super cute.
The, like, logical modern day understanding of what that might have been, rather than spirits, because it couldn't have been spirits, right? What are you doing with my water bottle? I'm concerned.
Some of your water?
I don't think there's really any water in there. Yeah.
I'm a thirsty bitch, though. It's fine. I'll drink tea.
Good job. Is that it was actually bog gases that were produced from the bogs. So hydrocarbon produced by decomposition of peat moss that's in the bogs can sometimes, I guess, spark or become like fluorescent in like nature, and that's why it looks like it's like a flame.
Mother Nature is such a weird and lovely
fucking,
bitch.
Yeah, like
You
it's
know,
just
honestly,
crazy.
in awe.
In awe, for sure. Okay, so other activities and stuff like that we think of when we think of Halloween. Do you have any that you can think of?
No, I'm pretty empty.
You're
on
pretty empty.
Halloween.
Okay.
That was a big no-no zone for
That
us.
is a big no-no zone.
That's... Big bad. big bad. Much prayer. Very well. I'm so sorry. Oh my God. Listen,
okay.
This is not for the faint of heart, okay? This podcast is not for the faint of heart. We're the easily offended.
Oh my God. Okay, so let's just talk more about Samhain in general, right? Okay. It's a harvest festival, or like the end of the harvest festivals. And there was lots of gatherings, there was lots of feasts. Oftentimes it was said that they would hold like meetings and like stuff like that like super important, big head honcho to do things, right?
They had shit to do.
They had shit to do. Right? They're starting their new year off right, okay?
Yeah, man. They got the hard shit is behind them, hopefully.
Oh, well, the winter is the hardest, I would think. I would assume.
Wow. I mean, I kind of figure, you know?
Yeah.
It's the 9th century of it all, probably.
Yeah, no, the 9th century of it all. Oh. Okay, so one of the big things that we get from Samhain was bonfires, right?
Oh,
and so
we love a bonfire.
We do love a bonfire. Now, the bonfires were thought to have like cleansing and protective properties. And so there were different things that they did. There were some practices where you would have like 2 bonfires going, and then they would pass like livestock or people through the 2 bonfires for cleansing and protection and whatever. I mean, who doesn't love a good protective smoke cleanse, right?
I mean, who doesn't love a smoke?
Who doesn't love smoke?
I want to be smoked.
Smoked.
Smoke me out, bro.
Smoking, babe.
Smoke it. Give me a bonfire. Give me 2. Sorry.
One for you and one for me.
We're just going to be like the Oprah of bonfires. You get a bonfire. You get a bonfire.
It's fine.
It's fine. It's great out here.
Kids were thought to play with the ashes afterwards by like scattering them in places, putting them on doors.
You say play. Is this like organized play, or is this an activity that kids naturally did?
Organized play, I think.
So they were told to be like, oh,
maybe
why don't
not
you go
that
play
they
with
were
the ashes
told,
and spread them?
but this is something that they did.
Okay.
But it was like prevalent enough that it wasn't just, it was like ring around the rosy. It's not something that you're told to do. And it's not something that you just do, but it's something that like
the hive
mind generationally collectively brings together, right?
It just sort of becomes a tradition.
Yeah. And they would like throw it behind their shoulders, throw it on themselves, like whatever.
Ash it up.
Right? Like they would just do a whole bunch of shit with the fucking ashes. Okay.
They would fuck with you then.
Yeah, they would. They would fuck with me a whole lot.
Yeah, ashy bitch.
Ashy hoe. Okay. There were also often sacrifices that would be made to, again, appease the gods. Oh, before we move on from the bonfires, these protective properties and these cleansing properties were another reason why I, assume they took that specific fire,
and made it
and pulled it into their homes.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Kind of like the holy water, if you will, except it.
And like when we think about, or at least when we think about like witchy rituals and stuff like that, fire is very cleansing. Fire is very like rebirthing and stuff
very
like that.
Very life-giving.
Very life-giving.
Also very powerful, very...
Yes.
Like you said, yeah.
Starting of something new, like you have to burn it all down, right? Like, so there was a lot
the
of...
Phoenix comes to mind.
Yes. There's a lot of symbolism there. So then we have the sacrifices, right, that might have been made to appease the gods for survival for the winter, the long winters that they were going to have. Scholars, like, don't really fully agree, I don't think, on exactly who they were appeasing. So, like, some people are like, oh...
That was going to be one of my questions, is we've talked about gods and spirits, but who?
Well, so there are Celtic, like, specific gods, right? There's also spirits. There's also the She, which are, like, fae.
Okay. We've talked about fae before.
Yes, we've talked about fae a lot, I think. And I can't remember how to say the other one, so I'm not going to say the other word for it. But the thing with, like, the fae and stuff like that is I feel like it kind of depends on who you're talking to. Some people believe that the fae are like gods. Some people believe that the gods are fae. Like, it's a finger thumb situation. You know what I'm saying? Like, we don't know what's going on over there.
They're phalanges.
Yeah, they're phalanges.
That's all we know.
Hold on. I'm going to try to say the stupid word.
I believe in you. I know you can do it. And I did say describing, so I think this is a safe space.
Okay. The Tuatha De Danann, which is also known as the tribe of the gods. So some people believe that the fae are the descendants of the Tuatha De Danann, which were gods. So again, we have, like, a lot of different, like, overlap and a lot of different, like, cultural views as to, like, what was actually being appeased.
Humans are very creative, though. We just repeat ourselves, don't we?
Over and over
again, but in new and fun and exciting ways, and sometimes in very dark and disturbing ways.
That's very true. Yes. So some literature talks about burial grounds being opened up.
Oh, hell no. We don't open up
which also
graves.
Is funny. I did get, like, a couple of resources that were talking about, I forget what it was called, but it was this practice. But it's not the first practice that I've seen like this, right? There are other, like, bog heavy places that have done this as well, where they would put their dead into the bogs only to bring them back out once they were preserved and put them back into the house. Yes.
I have a dumb question.
Yes. What is a bog?
Yes, thank you. I love you so much. I am a simple, small-brained human.
Small-brained baby.
Brain.
So a bog, I'm going to read straight off the thing, is a wetland area with wet, spongy ground that is poorly drained and acidic.
Okay.
They're usually made up of peat, moss, and, you know, like...
See, when I think bog, I think swamp. But I didn't want to... They seem like kind of different, but also
they are
similar.
Different. They're very different in the properties, I would say, because you can't put a body in the swamp and then expect it to preserve. You can put a body in these bogs, and they've found bodies that are, like, beautifully, like, preserved. Like, fucking crazy. So... I don't know if that's all bogs or what, but...
Immediately makes me think of Lord of the Rings.
Very
when they're
much.
crossing that,
Yeah.
The marsh.
The marsh, yeah.
With all their little faces perfectly preserved in their little spirits.
Yes.
Ew.
Exactly.
I now don't fuck with bogs.
Yeah, no.
I mean, it was already questionable because I've encountered one in Baldur's Gate.
Okay.
The bog hag.
Yes. Oh my god, I
That
forgot about
bitch.
her. Yeah.
Girl.
That bitch.
Try to get her hair.
I'm crying.
Pro tip for you kids out there who play Baldur's Gate.
Oh my god. Okay, so they would sometimes some sources say
You said they would put bodies in the bog. They'd be preserved, and then they pulled them out of the bog and brought them back to their homes for what purpose?
to commiserate with them, to
I respectfully, fuck that. Respectfully, absolutely fucking not.
there's
The smell alone. I can't even stand the smell of 5-minute old ketchup. Imagine what I would do.
There is that one, the mortician lady, right? Do you know who I'm talking about?
The mortician lady. I'm only thinking of my favorite girl, Elena, when you say the mortician
Oh,
lady.
okay. I'm sorry.
Which shout out to Morbid Podcast because they fucking rock.
Out. Yeah. So Caitlin Doughty, she's like this mortician. She,
I believe you.
she has this book, From Here to Eternity, that talks all about like death practices across the world.
Fascinating.
Yes. And this was not like solely something that like the Celts did. This was something that you can find in like India, I think, or there was some sort of Asian country. I know that they have very
interesting death practices.
Yeah. And just really interesting, fascinating stuff.
Oh yeah.
But so these mounds were often seen as, obviously, because that's, you know, I guess where the dead bodies are and stuff.
In the mounds, in the bogs.
Yes. Were also seen as portals to the other world.
Not good ones, I would imagine.
I guess it depends on who you ask.
I mean, I don't think heaven smells like sulfur, and if it does, I have questions and concerns. Mostly for my physical health. Unless I'm an ethereal body, then I don't give a fuck.
Then you don't give a fuck. Exactly.
You know what? Okay.
You probably are an ethereal body, so it doesn't
Honestly,
matter.
that does make sense. So scratch everything I just said.
Yeah. So it was believed that the veil obviously was at its thinnest, right? There's also, throughout Ireland and Scotland, there are like fucking a plethora of spots that they believed were portals, right?
Oh,
that,
I believe that.
like,
I've seen a documentary or two.
I'm crying.
They got some spaces.
They got some spaces that are fucking weird, right?
Yeah.
And really crazy. We don't even know how they like became or how they came about.
I mean, Stonehenge is the first obvious one that comes to mind. But they have like tons of little crop circle looking things, but also like stones that are just in places that don't make sense, dude. There's a lot there.
Yeah. I'm thinking very particularly of one space that like it is off of like a regular like ass road, to my understanding, right? Like you can just like
Those
go off of it, right? And it's this little, I mean, it's like this big if you put your arms together into a square. And that's about how big it looked in the video. But if you crawl into it, like you can see kind of a little bit through
Why
it.
would you do
Why
that?
would you do that? I know we're not wide enough for it, but some people would, right? And
some humans be
doing things. But if you go in, it looks like it goes down. Right. Like if you got past, it looks like not just drops, but like it looks like it like inclines. Like down, like for you to continue it's on your marriage. Not the
staircase to heaven. Spoiler
I
alert.
imagine not. But yeah, so they that is believed to be one of like the fae spots, right? Okay. Like one of the spots to, you know, find. And there was a
rather small for a fae.
Well, so that
that actually. They are actually giants.
Yes. Like
what?
some sources talk about the Tuatha De Danann as what I would picture as like Goliath, kind of like like just big ass, you know, people. But like it all kind of depends.
Our
like
family, your father in particular, would call that a Nephilim.
Yes, like some people believe that like the Fae are Nephilim or the Nephilim are Fae.
Okay.
And like, you know, goes back and forth. See, like it all interconnects. Like
it's just like one of those giant boards with the red string just attaching to different pins and images. All right, we're just all in a very intense episode of Stranger Things.
Perfect. Oh, and
perfectly
so like
titled.
Yes, exactly. And so obviously they thought that old relatives and ancestors would be coming through to visit and stuff like that, and then that's where we get leaving the treats out to either appease these bad spirits or to like give to the spirits that we want to give to, whatever. And so as you can see, then that evolves into its own fucking thing.
Its own beast.
Its own fucking beast.
Its own spirit.
I don't know if you've ever heard of bobbing for apples.
Yes.
Okay, have you ever seen that?
Bobbed for apples.
Oh, perfect. You were practicing divination. Good job. You should tell your mom.
Wait, donation?
Divination.
Divination.
Yeah.
Wow, my brain did not catch divination.
You did not
what the fuck?
hear what I said.
It's okay.
It's okay. So, the original practice for bobbing for apples, like, there's two. There's two practices. I don't really know where they, like, split or merge or how or what. Mm-hmm. But one was called snap apple. And it was...
Sounds delicious.
You know. It was when they would have these apples that were tied. And they were, like, tied up on a string, and you would try to, I guess, like, bite the apple. I don't remember what you tried to do.
I could see that work.
You had to try to bite it.
Yeah, because it's round and you have to...
Yeah. In the same way that the bobbing for apples situation did. Mm-hmm. And I don't remember what exactly it is happens, but, like, I guess if you get it, like, if you get it caught between your teeth, like, it was kind of like catching the bouquet at a wedding. You were, like, thought to be, like, the next to get married. And you'll see, like, a lot of the divination or divinatory practices all kind of lead back to, like, things like life, death, marriage, you know, the main concerns.
Kind of just sidetracking you here for a second. Does that mean, like, you know what? I lost the question. Never mind.
Are we asking about what divination means?
I was going to say, because you drew a comparison, so I was going to ask something along the lines of, does that mean that, like, the bouquet toss is also kind of...
That's a divinatory practice.
Yeah, because
in my opinion,
because the underlying question was because I always thought that was like a superstitious type thing. So, and I don't know where I got that. I think that's just because, you know, lack of exposure maybe and education.
No, the look on my face was not you're dumb. It was just like, oh yeah.
Oh yeah, okay. So I guess I don't know what my actual question is there. I guess I'm just sorting out the difference. Yeah.
I think that there's a lot of correlation between superstitions and divination. Divination specifically is the practice of, like, obtaining information through supernatural means.
Okay.
So, like, and usually most people, like, go straight to telling the future, right? But, like, we've seen... personally that it's not always about seeing the future, right? Like sometimes it's about just like understanding yourself or understanding other people or whatever, or knowing things even from the past, right? That we don't like recognize right away as like whatever. I think that divination in itself is timeless. And I think that depending on what sort of like understanding of time you have, it doesn't even really matter because like everything is connected and everything's the same and nothing is like, there is no past, present, future. There is only the time now, and then there's just, like, different lines that connect to the past, the present, and whatever. But it all leads back to a singular point in time.
That is very deep.
Thank you.
First of all.
You're so welcome.
Wow.
It's 9:30.
You just...
I'm going into delirium.
Just an existential crisis on the couch. It's fine.
It's perfectly fine.
It's perfectly fine.
Perfectly natural.
But basically... You just confirmed.
Yes, no,
absolutely.
How long have I said
100%.
that?
100%. Okay.
Honey. Do you mind if I put my leg there?
Yeah, go for it.
Oh,
stretch it, you old bitch.
Yes. Shut up.
You old hag, if you will.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so another divinatory practice, right, was the bobbing for apples.
Okay.
And what it was very, like, I don't know how gendered these things actually were, but, like, in the literature, they kind of make it a little bit gendered.
Not surprising. Considering the timing.
Exactly. But so it was most often for young women to bob for suitors, right? So, like, you'd put an apple in, and I guess whether or not it was multiple ones or just one apple, like, the apple represented a suitor that you had in mind. And then you would bob to see if you would be able to get it. And if you weren't able to get it, like, there was one article that was saying, like, if you bobbed the first time and you got it, best of luck. Perfect. Good match. Second time you couldn't get it, rocky waters, maybe not your dude. And then the third time or more, Don't do it,
like,
bitch.
you don't mess with that guy.
Y'all,
that's bad news.
y'all are not compatible.
Okay, thank you for saying that, because I was very confused in terms of, like, I thought the apples were selecting the guy out of, like, a group, as opposed to, like, you. Now I see the divination.
Yes.
Okay. Yes.
And then there's also a practice where you would, and we've actually seen this in a thing. Oh, maybe it wasn't with you that I was watching this, but
how dare you?
I know.
You can't have other humans.
How dare I? So it was this practice where you would peel an apple and then you throw the apple skin behind your shoulder.
Was
not
that
looking.
in Midsommar?
Oh, it might have been
I
in
think
Midsommar
we saw that
too.
together. Ha!
But
I was the human.
It wasn't in that I was thinking about it.
I was a human. Past tense.
You threw it over your shoulder, and then the way that it landed was supposed to be the initials of someone who you would be with, like
the
your soulmate.
initials. So we're getting specific.
We're getting specific. So usually, like if it landed in what looked like a J, you know, oh, there's a Jason in town.
Oh Lord,
that must be your new beau.
Jason, not Jason.
Jason.
Oh no.
So, you know, there was that. And then apples were thought to be like otherworldly, were connected to the you know, other worlds, and immortality, which kind of makes a little bit of sense even with Christianity, because if we think about apple and
I didn't want to be the bitch who did it a third time.
No, it's fine. It's fine. But if we think about it with Christian belief, right? We think about...
It's all stolen, in my opinion. The more I hear about it, the more I hear that Christianity has been molded to fit an
Christianity
existing
and
mold.
fan fiction.
It is.
No offense, everybody.
No, we love Jesus.
I do love
right.
Jesus. He's a pretty chill dude.
Honestly, yeah, he is a super chill dude.
He might have also been a little bit petty, though. Like,
no, he was hella petty. Hold on. Don't get it twisted. Jesus was hella petty.
Okay, sorry. Yes, go ahead.
My guy tossed tables in the temple.
Yeah,
right?
but like not that. That was barely
What
petty.
kind of petty are you talking?
So there's
this might be a perspective thing, and I'm ready.
There's one story, and there's like this whole book that has stories like these, right? When Jesus was like a young boy, he
was sassy.
He was a sassy little bitch.
He was a little shit.
He was definitely gay.
No respect.
Like, queer, like not necessarily just, you know, fucking other dudes, but like, I mean, he was queer as fuck. Like, I really do think so.
He was just living his best life.
Yeah.
That's what we do know.
He had
up
so
until
much
the very
audacity.
last. A little bit. That was not his best life. Anyways, canceled.
Sorry. We don't have any religious trauma at all.
Not at all. If the nervous laughter was not an indicator.
It's fine. Okay, so in these stories, like there's this one in particular that I keep thinking about, and I don't remember exactly what it was. So now I'm mad that I don't remember exactly what it was.
Give me hints of it, and I'll probably...
He was a young boy. And then another boy, like, either called him names or was picking on an older man or something like that. And he told him, like, you better shut the fuck up. You better stop your shit, right? And the little boy was like, fuck you, I won't. And then what wound up happening was he was like, fine, you'll regret it. He goes off. Jesus goes off, does his thing, whatever. Days later, the little boy is sick. He's throwing up. He's, like, literally on his deathbed. And the father of the little boy comes to Mary and comes to Jesus and is like, please, like, fix this. Please stop. Like, whatever you're doing.
This is the one they don't talk about.
Yes.
And because it's, like, at the edge of my memory, but I remember it.
Yeah. And so he's like, well, he should have said sorry or whatever.
He shouldn't have been an ass.
Yes.
He shouldn't have been 10.
Literally. And so, yeah. And then so that's...
Damn, dude.
Yeah.
All right.
I don't know if
Jesus
he
does not
ever
pull
stopped.
punches.
Yeah. No, he is 10 toes down. He's business.
also very showy. So
Yeah,
he's
he
very
is.
much a showy, charismatic broski.
Yeah. Okay, so back to divinatory practices that were had. Hazelnut. They used hazelnuts. Which were to them like significant to divination and wisdom. And so they would use them in more fortune telling kind of like things, little games. They also did egg maybe not egg cleansings, but like when you drop eggs into water, which normally so normally how egg cleansings.
Oh, I was gonna ask if it was like the thing you did.
Yes, the Olympia. But so some people will open the egg up and drop it in water, and then what you see is indicative of something, right?
Okay. I have questions and concerns.
Yes, go ahead.
Because this reminds me of like tea leaves, right? Reading the leaves.
Yes.
How the fuck are you supposed to know what you're interpreting?
Well, so some, like, there's usually... Oh my god.
And also, what happens if one person sees one thing and another person sees another thing? How do you know who's right? That's why I'm a faithless bitch.
Well, so it's not an exact science. That's the other thing, right? It's
that
an art
intuition,
form.
bro.
It's an intuition thing. So like there's certain things that like have been passed down that are like, I don't want to say like generational, but kind of, right? Like there's generational information where it's like, oh, people have seen correlations between XYZ things and this outcome between all of these people, right? This is what it correlates to. So there's that oral tradition part. But also, if you're like really digging deep into like intuitive like readings of anything, like the way you read tarot would be a different way than I would read tarot. You know what I'm saying? But like you've heard me read tarot. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I've heard you tear me to filth. Is what I've heard. Thank you, universe. And fuck you too. Respectfully.
Respectfully, of course.
As always. Never disrespectfully.
But like the way that someone else would read tarot for you, you know, like we can look at the same card and get totally different information from it. You know, it's just like all about like intuition, in my opinion, you know?
Faith
like,
is so hard.
Faith is so hard.
Faith is like, what even is faith? But that's a different episode.
That is a different episode. There was one practice that I read where people would eat this very specific like sweet bread or something. Maybe, I don't know if it was actually sweet, but it was a bread that you would make.
Which means it was awesome.
You would eat it. And you wouldn't drink or eat anything else, and you wouldn't talk to anybody else. You would go straight to bed, and then the dreams that you had were indicative of something. So you would dream, and you would analyze those dreams the next day.
I would fail that. I don't dream.
Well,
very often, anyway.
Yeah, I was about to say you dream, you just don't remember them. Your body has to go through that REM space. Just FYI. Out of the two of us, obviously, I'm the science bitch. But,
well, I did start this episode with that. Go back.
So sorry.
That's okay. No, always educate me because I want to learn. Will I remember it? That's another science question for another time.
Exactly. And we don't need
for another time and another cherry
to know all about that at all.
You know?
Okay. And that, like, I mean, I'm just going to give you some really quick points on mythology. It was originally a spoken tradition. Most of what we have was written down actually by Christian monks, or at least in the beginning. I have festivals are where we get the majority of our settings, and now I'm confused as to what I was trying to say.
Where we get the majority of our settings.
Perfect. Love that.
So clear, so concise.
Very well.
Very well. Such a maze.
Please. I'm fucking done with you. Okay. So that's it, Faye. You now have the history of Halloween.
Of Samhain. Samhain, as some people.
Please don't call it that ever again.
No. Samhain.
Yeah.
Samhain. Okay.
7, I will even take.
7. Okay. I would like to know, because it's not as of right now, my brain is a little unclear on this one point.
Yes.
What is the overall goal of the festival of Halloween? Is it simply to celebrate
Halloween, modern day Halloween?
No. Like original
Samhain.
Halloween.
Okay.
Yes.
Samhain, which is not actually Halloween. Because one is born from the other.
'Tis true. Thank
Yes.
you. So, what is the overall purpose of Samhain?
Multiple things. right? Number one, New Year. Why do we celebrate the New Year?
Because we've stepped into a new fucking year of this bullshit.
Exactly. Right? Number two, so
Yes.
that way they could speak and like commune and like appease whoever it is that they wanted to appease for the long harvest. They've had a successful year. They're still alive. You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
now
So
they
is it
just
like
have
a
to survive
community
the
gathering?
winter. Yes, it's
So
very much.
it's very much a social. We've all survived this horrible or this wonderful thing, depending on how our crops treated us.
Depending.
Depending. Because I think the part I'm missing is like what types of spirits are coming at you and why are they coming at you for Samhain? So they go through this whole process of lighting up the bonfires.
Right.
They cleanse the animals.
And themselves and,
And
their
themselves.
things.
What happens if one does not participate in Samhain?
I mean, I don't think that you have to participate, but you want to.
But what are the dangers of not participating?
The dangers of not participating would be potentially the spirits haunting you, maybe? The spirits. So this is kind of like where we get into certain things like the Fae stories, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like humans were often at risk of being snatched up by the Fae and taken into the Fae realm and whatever, turned into like slaves, some were, just killed, some were eaten, some were whatever. It just depends on what kind of Fae got you, I guess. And yeah, so like, I mean, I think that the end goal, I think, was community, right?
Mm-hmm.
The same reason why we have Dia de los Muertos, the same reason why we have Halloween today, right? It's just like a communal thing. It is celebrating something. It's like a harvest, end of harvest thing. There's a lot of reasons. I couldn't tell you why they did it for sure, but like these
No,
are the things that I assume.
That's a good answer. That's a good answer because, well, not socialized. So I always tend to think that things mean more than they do. But if it is just socializing and like experiencing
and like remembrance
the culture,
of your ancestors and like acknowledging them, and yeah,
that is purpose. That is
purpose,
beautiful.
yes.
Samhain is beautiful.
Thank you.
That is what I have learned.
Perfect. Yay.
You get gummy bears when I have them.
Whoop, whoop,
Whoop, whoop.
whoop.
And that's the episode, I suppose.
And that's it. Yeah.
We now know
You're
all
now
about
educated.
Samhain. I am educated.
Perfect.
Hopefully, I remain educated tomorrow. If not, I can re-listen to this episode.
Perfect.
So, there we go.
There you go. You're going to have to listen to it anyway when you edit.
Editor Cherry.
R.I.P. Sorry, babe.
R.I.P. Well,
Goodbye.
goodbye.